We don't have the culture of consumption management in this country in terms of power, just because of the cheapness of the tariff we pay in power. A lot of people come back from work, they want to have dinner, or they want to play with their colleagues down the road. They switch on the AC for the room to be cooling before they come back. Yes, some people will be going to work in the morning. A freezer has been left on for days. They will still leave it on when all the items in the freezer are already frozen. And 5, 6, 8 hours of their absence will not be able to defreeze. They will still leave it. It will consume power just because we are not paying enough. We've all been overseas before. We know how conscious the power consumers are to consumption of electricity. Thank you.
They always sound vindictive, like they're on a revenge mission against Nigerians. They always sound as if they are doing Nigerians a favor. As you can see, even the audience didn't agree with him going by the murmuring. Let's even assume that what he's saying is correct. So because someone left his freezer on, he wants to punish the person to make it difficult for him to power his freezer next time. The AC someone powered on without being in the room, he wants to prevent him from doing that in the future. They increase the tariff because they feel it's so cheap, since people are leaving their freezers on, that if it becomes expensive, people will stop powering their freezers 24/7. What did Nigerians do to deserve this arrogance and wickedness? Anyway, the power minister is wrong. It shows that he doesn't know how freezers work. Freezers have what is called a thermostat that enables it to stop and start when it is needed, and it's all based on temperature. Freezers are meant to be plugged in 24 hours because with the thermostat, it ensures it doesn't consume power much. Considering the food inflation in Nigeria, anyone that can afford a freezer can afford to fill up the freezer with food. So the minister wants the person to risk losing thousands of naira if the food rots, or leaving it on to ensure the food doesn't go bad. The power is unreliable anyway. Besides, many people are using prepaid meters. They've already paid for power. As such, no one can tell them how to use the power. It's just like a telecommunications company telling a customer to reduce the number of calls or reduce his data consumption, that he should stop downloading videos or watching YouTube, that is over-consuming the credit he paid for. What logic? All this hubris to justify the insensitive increase in electricity tariff, and they are considering further increases within the next 3 years.
In the short run or in the short time, with a transition plan to achieving a full cost-reflective tariff for the sector over, say, a period of 3 years.
Is there really subsidy in the power sector? That's subsidy that translates to real value to Nigerians. We will come back to this in a moment. Why do these people live in an alternate reality? He doesn't seem to understand that people have a lot of anxiety because of unreliable power. Anytime power is restored, people rush to plug in their devices to charge them. That doesn't happen in other countries where the power is reliable. That's why someone might power up his AC like the way he said. You don't know if they've seen power since last 1 week. Telling people to reduce their power consumption shows they know that power supply is not adequate. Well, it's not even a contention, because if power is adequate, they wouldn't have different bands that they use to segregate their customers. They choose who to supply power around the clock and who to supply only a few hours in a day. So consumption is not the root cause of the problem. They should concentrate on solving the root cause of the problem, which is low power generation. Nigeria ranks very low in Africa on power generation. Egypt, that is half of Nigeria's population, generates about 50,000 megawatts, while Nigeria can't reliably generate and distribute about 10% of that. Have you seen any merchant complaining that some customers want to buy everything in his warehouse? What he needs to do is, after noticing that there is high demand for his products, he will simply increase his supply by tenfold. That's what the Minister of Power should be doing, not blaming Nigerians for the mindless increase in electric power tariff at a time Nigerians are going through the worst hardship in their lives. This new tariff has put Nigeria above many Western countries or on par with some of them. And what is their minimum wage compared to Nigeria? In the US, the minimum wage is about $1,200 a month. This minimum wage is based on federal minimum wage of $7.25 per hour. In many states, people earn much more. Minimum wage per hour in some states are as high as $15 per hour. So when you convert $1,200 to Naira at a rate of 1,300 Naira to $1, that's 1.5 million Naira. Is 1.5 million Naira the minimum wage in Nigeria? No, the minimum wage is $23 per month. So how does the government expect people earning $23 per month to pay the new electricity tariff that is higher than what obtains in the US? Yes, they say the new tariff only applies to Band A, but there are reports from people on social media complaining that they were charged the new tariff despite not being in Band A. So it seems it's universal. Whether they are sticking to Band A or not, Nigerians shouldn't pay higher for electricity than someone in a developed country. If this new tariff is not reversed, it means that Nigeria will never be competitive. Factories need power to run. Let's assume that many factories are in Band A. That means Nigerian manufacturers will be buying power at a higher cost compared to their counterparts in Western countries. In Western countries, they already enjoy other amenities and infrastructure that is not available in Nigeria. So in effect, their products will be cheaper than made in Nigeria products. That means Nigerians will be importing their products to sell in Nigeria because it will still be cheaper than the ones made in Nigeria. This will mean that Nigerian manufacturers might close down their factories because they are not making sales, which will lead to laying off of workers. So by implementing this new tariff, the government ended up creating more poverty. They are only focusing on getting more money from consumers, but they don't know the implication of what they are doing. Just like they didn't know the implication of petrol subsidy removal, Naira devaluation, and floating, today Nigeria is paying more than double the amount Buhari paid in petrol subsidy despite selling petrol at more than 600 Naira per litre, while during Buhari's time it was sold for 200 Naira per litre. Also, there are multiple exchange rates today compared to Buhari's time. The Nigeria Electricity Regulation Commission calculated the new tariff based on 1,450 Naira to $1. The CBN sells dollars to bureau de change operators at 1,200 Naira to $1. The customs exchange rate is at 1,500 and something Naira to $1. This is coming from a government that claims to have unified the exchange rate.
And on the overall, I believe, realistically, that if we're able to comply with this service level agreement of 20 hours minimum, it is still far cheaper than the alternative source of diesel and petrol generators. I believe you will agree with me.
Why are they comparing the cost of electricity generated by massive turbines to the one generated by a small generator? They can never be the same because they are not in the same category. One is meant to supply power to thousands of homes and the other one just one home, and is not even meant to be run round the clock, while turbines can be run for several months at a time. So he can't compare the two, saying that the cost of running a generator is about 500 Naira per kilowatt hour and justifying the 225 Naira tariff, that it's still a better deal for consumers. Are the discos now competing with generators? That's a shame. He should be comparing with other power companies in neighboring countries. Some of them don't even have gas. They import gas to power their turbines. The electricity produced is still affordable and reliable. What is happening in Nigeria? Now to what the minister said about power subsidy and the need to get it to commercial pricing so that the gencos, gas suppliers and everyone involved will cover their production costs and make profit. The truth is that their service is very poor and inefficient. The subsidy shouldn't exist if the system is efficient. Nigerians are simply paying for their inefficiency. If what he is saying is true, that the government would have spent 2.9 trillion naira to subsidize power in 2024, that means they are subsidizing darkness. What's the annual revenue of all the discos in Nigeria put together? The Gencos receive gas from gas companies, power their turbines and feed power to the national grid, while the Discos receive the power and supply to consumers. Does it mean that the power generated by Gencos wasn't transmitted? If the government spends $1.5 billion annually on subsidy, that's the equivalent of 2.9 trillion naira, and the revenue of all Discos is not up to that amount, what are they subsidizing? More transparency is needed, because if they are paying that much to subsidize power and Nigerians are not getting the power, something is definitely wrong somewhere. It's just like someone who bought petrol of 10,000 naira to power his generator. After powering the gen, he noticed the current is not stable, it's doing when. After 6 hours, the petrol has finished. He goes to check his freezer, and to his surprise, the food is not frozen. So he didn't get his money's worth after spending 10,000 naira on petrol. Maybe that's what is happening. Let's assume the $1.5 billion goes to gas companies to supply gas to Gencos. Gencos produce electricity, but because of the constant collapse of the national grid, the Discos are not able to distribute the power. Everything is wasted. If this is what is happening, they need to abandon the national grid for the moment until the infrastructure is robust enough to handle loads without collapsing. Maybe until Siemens finalizes the upgrade, that's if the contract is still on. Let all Gencos supply power to their immediate environment or places where they can reach without relying on the national grid. This will seriously improve efficiency and Nigerians will get their money's worth. This will mean that remote areas won't have electricity because supply gets there through the national grid. We can't continue depending on the national grid since it has become a bottleneck. The national grid has collapsed several times this year alone, and it can't handle more than 5,000 megawatts, and generating capacity is way above that. Also, since they have only 12 million customers, the upgrade of the national grid will increase their customer base because they will be able to reach remote areas. As you can see, Nigerians don't actually need subsidy. The subsidy exists because of inefficiencies. Nigeria has massive gas reserves that will last decades, if not centuries. All it takes is for the government to focus on natural gas that doesn't need much processing, even if it means not relying on companies mining crude oil to get the gas. The Nigerian gas company can do it. Why should gas that is in Nigeria's backyard be expensive? This is their competitive advantage. They need to use it very well, but they are not interested. All they know is pushing inefficiency costs to Nigerians. What would have happened if Nigeria is importing gas like many countries that import gas to power their turbines? They would have fixed the tariff at more than 500 naira per kilowatt hour. Come to think of it, how is it possible that electricity is cheaper in countries that import gas, but in Nigeria they give all the reasons in the world why it must be expensive? If countries are importing gas, it means theirs should be more expensive because they have to pay for freight, which is an additional cost. In the end, their tariff is still lower than Nigeria's new tariff. It shows that Nigeria's system is not efficient. So the power minister should improve efficiency in the power sector. That's his job, not blaming Nigerians for simply paying for power and using it. Thanks for watching.